All right, it is sectional championship night in high school football, and we have Akeem Glaspie on joining us here with a surprising result. Akeem, I would say. I don't know if it's not sure how this game went exactly, but wanted to ask you about how your game went tonight. Ronali Chitaard ended up being a game where I think we thought it would be closer than last time these teams played each other. It was a 33-11 Chitaard win. It didn't happen this time, though. It was a reversal completely, and Ronali wins it. What happened tonight, Akeem?
Yeah, I just think Ronali's defense, especially the secondary, did a great job of shutting down Jack Harrington, held him to 186 yards passing, 12 of 26 through the air, and 2 interceptions. They intercepted Harrington on consecutive drives in the first half, and that just kind of shut down the rhythm. Chitaard was never really able to get into a rhythm, never really able to establish Adams on the ground, and then they had to play from behind, and it was just kind of an uphill battle for Chitaard. So credit the Ronali defense, and then on offense, Ronali's offense, just the ground attack was just dominant and just kind of in a methodical way. Alex Jarvis, 121 yards on 21 carries. Colin Ash, 124 yards on 19 carries and a touchdown. So just kind of what Ronali does is just kind of pound you over and over and over again. And then they actually went through to the air. They set it up with a couple swing passes, and then they go over the top for a 50-yard touchdown. Colin Ash to Luke Roeder to kind of put the game out of hand. So just a dominant performance all around from Ronali.
Yeah, had you seen either of these teams so far this year, Akeem? I know you covered some games early in the year for us, and then you kind of come back here later. But I can't remember if you covered these teams earlier.
Yeah, so I covered Ronali against Franklin Central, and Franklin Central dominated that game, I believe. So that was the only time I had seen Ronali. I have not seen Chitaard.
Okay, obviously this Ronali program known for running the ball over the years, and that's kind of what they've done well. Whenever they have good teams, that's kind of what they're known for. But I'd say this year been a little bit more balanced, I would say. And Colin Ash has had a good year throwing the ball. It looked like again tonight. Obviously they run. And that's kind of key to what they do offensively. But it's been a team this year that's been able to mix in the pass. I know they didn't have huge passing numbers tonight, 91 yards it looks like, and a touchdown, but ran the ball for 286 and looked like maybe able to keep Chitaard off balance. But if you can run for 286, you're probably going to win most of the time, Akeem. And it seems like they were able to do that tonight.
Yeah, like I said, just a methodical ground game and always able to, move the pile and move forward. Colin Ash had a really nice touchdown run in the red zone there, breaking a tackle. And again, Alex Jarvis is just a load. He always falls forward, always kind of never goes down by the first tackler. So that was just kept them ahead of the sticks and just on schedule. And the touchdown pass, like, again, I talked to Colin afterwards, and I was like, you guys were setting up the whole drive, and he just kind of smiles because they were throwing these swing passes to Zach Dozier in the flat. They hit him like twice, and then he pump faked the swing pass and went deep to Luke Roeder for 50 yards. So I think it's kind of like a situational passing attack. I mean, they kind of, it was all set up, that took the whole drive to set up that one pass play. But I mean, they connected for 50 yards. So credit to them for doing that. And Coach Otley was also kind of smiling when he was talking about that play as well.
Yeah, Colin Hurricane Ash is the nickname I gave him when he played in the Hurricane last year. He had a touchdown pass in the Hurricane into the wind. So he will forever be Colin Hurricane Ash. But yeah, that's a good team. I mean, Ronali, obviously, we knew this would be a good game. I was going to, so on Chitaard's side, Akeem, I mean, that's just an offense that had really been putting up big numbers. Danny Adams had a huge season. He's a city player of the year on the offensive side, held to 93 yards. That's not a bad night. But interesting, his long run was only 14. So obviously Ronali able to just kind of keep Chitaard from really having any big plays. And Jack Harrington threw for 186, but not Again, no touchdowns on that side. So really nice job by that Roncalli defense. And that's probably a bigger story even than what they did offensively, is holding Chitaard to 6 points, which I don't, that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, and again, talking to Coach Otley after the game, I mean, the preparation for this win started last year after Roncalli sent them home in the sectional championship, and he just talked about a commitment to development and improvement every week, and after the week 3 loss, again, like you said, 33-11, Roncalli comes back and beats Columbus North, so that's a 4A team beating a 6A team, and they said that was kind of what really helped them made them believe in themselves, and they knew that if they had a chance to see Chitaard again, that they could do this and pull this off. So I mean, and you got to just tip your cap to Chitaard. Obviously, Harrington is playing injured with his multiple knee injuries, and he looked a little compromised. But I mean, he has such a strong arm. And they connected on 1 or 2 deep balls, but couldn't quite get the ball in the end zone. But it was. And Roncalli actually dropped multiple interceptions too. So they had 2 on the night, but it could have been like 3 or 4. So they were just the defensive backs. You can tell they were kind of studying their film, and it looked like they were jumping routes and just kind of made it really tough for the Chitaard passing attack.
I'm guessing the reaction pretty, although you win this game pretty handily, what was the reaction like on the Roncalli side? This is a game, both these teams ranked in the top 5 in 4A. I'm not saying this is for the state championship, but definitely, you get maybe an inside track to getting to Lucas Oil by winning this game. But what was the reaction on the Roncalli side in the aftermath of this?
Yeah, so I mean, the fans rushed the field after the game. They were definitely very excited to get the win, and I would say, Roncalli definitely feels like this is a good precursor to a possible trip to Lucas Oil. This was kind of, I don't know if it was the de facto championship game, but I mean, I think both of those teams felt like if they had a good chance at winning the state title. So yeah, definitely a lot of. I don't think it was. I don't know if they considered an upset, but they definitely rushed the field and celebrated. I mean, a championship is a championship, so you're going to celebrate. But definitely, especially after losing earlier in the season, I think Roncalli was very happy with their win, and deservedly so.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. Like even my game tonight, mine definitely felt like a state championship. I think it might have been, and even talking to the Cathedral side and the coaches tonight said, I don't think anybody's beating New Pal, and probably the same could be said if it would have gone the other direction. But so maybe more so in 5A than even in your game. But yeah, huge win for Roncalli. They beat Chitaard 26-6 tonight and move on into the regional round where they'll play Yorktown. And Yorktown, I think a lot of people thought maybe it'd be Pendleton Heights Chitaard in the next round. It ends up being Roncalli and Yorktown in the next game. And Yorktown, obviously, they had played Pendleton Heights to a really close game earlier as well. So another game where you had a reversal of what the regular season game was, which is kind of the fun of these sectional championship games, is you see some games that are, rematches of the season. And, if they're close games, things go differently sometimes. But and that's the case tonight in your game, Akeem. So anything else tonight I didn't ask you about?
No, I think we covered it. Just a good game. And talking to Coach Doyle after the game, the Chitaard coach, he just said, we made mistakes that we can't happen. I mean, we made mistakes and they didn't. I believe they lost a turnover battle 2-0. And it's kind of hard to win a game, or it's nearly impossible to win the game when you lose a turnover battle by that margin. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, those things are key. I was pretty shocked by that score. I thought that would be a close game, and even, definitely thought Roncalli could win it, if things went right. But the final was really kind of surprising what it ended up being, because Chitaard was at the top of that class pretty much throughout the year, and dropped down to number 2 after losing late in the season. But play a great schedule. They almost beat Cathedral. Probably should have beat Cathedral earlier in the year. So it ends on kind of a down note. And I was out there this week talking to Chitaard, and I know they had their sights set definitely on this game, and knowing it would be a tough one, but definitely felt like they had a team that could win the whole thing if things went right. So that's the way it goes sometimes. Some of these games are, kind of de facto state championships sometimes, or has that feel to them. And certainly the case tonight in that one. But Keem, appreciate you popping on here and joining me as always. And hopefully we have you in the mix. I don't know how's Butler's schedule look next week. Are you able to do this again?
Let's see. I know they're playing Tuesday, and I think they're playing Saturday. So I'll see if I can squeeze you in, Kyle.
Good. Well, see what you can do. Yeah, we'll see how the Butler guys end up playing this year too. But appreciate you popping on here, Akeem.
Yep. Anytime. See you.
Thanks, man. Well, again, Akeem Glaspie had the Chitaard Roncalli game tonight. Roncalli wins it 26-6 and moves on into the regional round against Yorktown in next week's game. So was hoping to get some of these games updated so we have them on the scroll below. Hopefully can get to that here in a minute. But want to bring on Rich Torres. Had one of the best games of the night, probably anywhere in the state tonight. I want to find out more about this game because I saw the highlights and the overtime situation there between Westfield and Carmel. But, man, I mean, Rich, we talked all year about Carmel maybe being that team that could, maybe beat Brownsburg in the state championship game or, I know we can look ahead, but I know they weren't. We knew Westfield would be a much tougher battle than they were the first time these teams played each other. But yeah, wow. Felt kind of following this game from afar and watching your tweets and keeping up with scores, looked like Westfield kind of controlled this game. But I want to find out what happened here, Rich. What's the story from Carmel tonight?
You summed it up with wow. Yeah, I mean that was I went in obviously expecting a good game. Two top powers in 6A. You can kind of throw the records and the rankings out right now, but it was definitely a different game than the last time they played. I think the last time it was 34-10. This one, Westfield came out and, Aiden Grabowski, their quarterback, one of their quarterbacks, because they have a 2-quarterback system, mentioned it in the postgame, and he said before the game, the guys asked each other and kind of challenged each other to make it personal. To kind of come in and like what's driving you more or less, not like, hey, we don't like them, but it's like, what's driving you to win? And tonight they kind of showed it. They came out quick. They scored first twice. They were up 14-0. And they were kind of in control of this game until the fourth quarter. There was a scoreless third quarter. Each defense had an interception. Cato June had a huge interception as Carmel was getting into Westfield's red zone. Kind of stymied that drive. Westfield's defense showed up, man. 2 sacks, the pick by June, turnover on downs. So they forced 3 punts. Same thing with Carmel, though. They had an interception. They also kept Westfield off the scoreboard in the third quarter and in the fourth. And they kind of charged back, man. Like we talked about with Carmel, it's a team that's trying to put itself back on the map in football. And they came out in that second half, and they really kind of took charge to rally back to tie it up. Really, and I even asked Coach Wright about this, after the game. They came back on a huge 18-play, 90-yard drive, tie it up. And they had an opportunity there to go for 2. And they actually lined up for 2. There was like 29 seconds left in the game, regulation. And they lined up for 2, and they, obviously both teams called timeouts. And they kind of went in the huddle and they talked about it, and they were going to live with going for 1 and going to overtime. They believed in their defense. And, it was a gutsy call to do that. And it's also a gutsy call if you go for 2, and you don't make it. So you can't fault them either way. They send it to overtime. But that's when Westfield kind of took control. Carmel had possession first, weren't able to get in the end zone. Got another field goal from Matthew Obermeyer. He had 2 tonight. That one was for 27 yards. The one he had earlier in the game was 23. But then Westfield, 4 plays, 4th down, 4th and 4, and Grabowski, found his target, Baylor Connor, on a little dump pass to his tight end. It was a talk about a gutsy call, and that's pretty much what Coach Miracle kind of called it too. Is like they were going to live and die with that call. They were not going to go for the field goal. They weren't going for the tie. They wanted to go for the win. And on the sidelines, there was this flag that they were waving around that said, "Don't give up the ship." And basically, that was the mentality they had in that moment, was we're going to win this thing. This is our championship to defend. Let's do this. And what a play, what a call, what a game. Oddly enough, Aiden only threw 5 times, completed 3 of them, and 2 of them were touchdowns. So talk about efficiency right there, right? He rushed for 1 touchdown, passed for 2. He kind of mentioned the chemistry him and Connor had from the JV level, and now it's kind of carried on to the varsity level. And what a time for it to shine, right? I mean, that's big crowd, great atmosphere. It felt like a semi-state championship. It really did. And no offense to any other teams in 6A, because obviously it's a competitive classification, but this was a highlight of things to come here these next couple of weeks, because wow.
Yeah, fantastic finish there. And, 4th down play in overtime for the win. It doesn't get much better than that. Akeem was talking about the Chitaard game and how, obviously that's a team felt like they had a chance to win a state title. I think the same could be said for Carmel. What was kind of the vibe, I guess, on that side in defeat tonight?
I mean, they gave everything. Really the biggest thing with them that hurt them was a slow start. They didn't get started and get going until after the first quarter. And then penalties. There were quite a few penalties on their part, a lot of things that kind of hurt them offensively and as well as defensively too. At one point, I think it was on Westfield's second drive, they surrendered 30+ yards in penalties. And when you give opponent that kind of ground, they're going to take advantage. And Coach Wright even mentioned that. He said he wasn't blaming it on one play, any breakdowns late. It was just there, as always, there are little things building up to that moment that if you change the course, it completely changes the course of the outcome. And that's really what it was. I mean, and when you get to a point, especially in 6A, with 2 powerhouse teams like this, 2 very disciplined, well-coached teams, it's whoever makes the mistake at the wrong time typically kind of pays the price. And it kind of came down to that, more or less. It was just like little things that could have helped Carmel put some more points on the board earlier that kind of came back and bit them when they needed it. But again, that 90-yard drive, I was really impressed. I mean, there was like 5.5 minutes left, and they just kind of put it together. Their offensive line came out. They ran the ball heavy in those 18 plays that they ran. And they just kind of just drove down and said, we're going to tie this thing or we're going to win it. And they ended up tying it. And I really felt at that point that Carmel probably was going to pull this out. They had all the momentum, but they just weren't able to get in that end zone. As you know, they have alternating possession and the overtime, which is it's kind of a cool format. And yeah, they had to settle for that field goal, and they really thought they had them. I think when it was 4th and 4, and there was a timeout called again, I think Carmel believed that they were going to go for that field goal and get another shot. And when they came out, it looked like it was defended well, but then just enough space for Connor to break free. As you can see, I'm sure if you get on X, you can see the video I put up there. I mean, it was perfectly timed. And really the only thing that could have went wrong is if you dropped it. And I don't think that kid was going to drop that ball at any point. So it was, it was a game of chess that was played at a high level, and it was impressive. It really was. And I mean, give it to Westfield. I mean, they got to the championship last year. New guys, but it's still the same program. And Coach Gilbert was on the sidelines. So I mean, obviously he has Wabash College to worry about, but he's still out there sporting the Shamrocks and Coach Miracle. So. Again, his namesake, the Shamrocks pull off a miracle right there.
Yeah, and Westfield will play Fishers at home next week, so they get to have a home game in the regional, and that'll be a fun game too. Fishers is an underrated, offensive team. They beat HSC tonight, 28-20, so they win Mudsock Part 2 and get another shot at Westfield, which they played to a 14-7 game earlier in October. about a month ago. So obviously those two teams in the same HCC conference, so they know each other really well. I would not wouldn't sleep on Fishers at all, but I would say Westfield, based on the recent history of their program, you have to kind of consider them probably the favorite in the top north side of 6A now. Just looking at what's out there, Penn beat Crown Point tonight as well. So Crown Point's out. Penn won 28-24, and they'll play Carroll. Carroll's another good team, kind of a team that has been tested. They play Center Grove and HSC earlier in the year, but they're also kind of a team I think that might have a chance to beat Penn. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, Rich, it's hard to, with what Westfield's done under Jay Gilbert, like you mentioned, and now Josh Miracle, they've kind of become this team to beat, and further evidence tonight by beating Carmel again. So credit to them. I mean, Westfield's really built a monster there in 6A.
They really have, and to do that on the road too, that's impressive. And now, like you said, they're at home next week. They're going to be charged up, coming off of this victory. But you're right, Fishers is sneaky. I mean, just let's just say that conference, that Crossroads conference. I mean, that seems to be the measuring stick right now in 6A football. It's still proven otherwise. I mean, it seems like if you get through that conference schedule, you're prepared. And I even asked Coach Miracle about that, and obviously he kind of gave the canned response. But it's what else is he going to say? I mean, you're playing high level competition every week, so even if you do take a loss, you're learning from it, and you're coming back, and you're proving how good you are. And really, you can see that, And I think in this situation, it really kind of showed. It's just like they know what they have to face, and they know what they have faced. And there was zero hesitation. You could see the composure on everyone's face. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough one for Fishers, I think, next week. But again, based on the margin of victories that we're seeing, it could be a 1-point game again. Who knows? It could be something very much like we saw this week.
Yeah, to your point, 3 of the HCC teams still alive because Brownsburg won. That was a game where you're going to have one or the other. You had Avon or Brownsburg, and Brownsburg wins it tonight. So you have 3 HCC teams still alive on the north and south side of that bracket. So, and we did see an all HCC championship game last year with Westfield and Brownsburg, of course, won that game in a really good game. So the opportunity potentially of having a rematch is on the table as Westfield wins tonight and Brownsburg wins tonight. So you never know how these things work out, and then still a long way to go. But that will be something we could see again. But Rich, what did what was kind of Westfield's reaction after the game, or what was kind of obviously the mood was very high, but what did they have to say about the win?
Yeah, I mean the celebration was intense. That's why it really felt like it was more than a sectional. They were definitely amped up. You could tell that their confidence was there, but they're not looking too far ahead. As every team is going to tell you at this level, sectional is great, but it's not what they want. It's not all they want. They want more. And especially for Westfield, like you mentioned, last year they got to the state championship in a really good game against Brownsburg, really tested the Bulldogs. I think they just want another shot. They just want another crack at it. And you could see that a lot of the guys that came back believe in that, and the new guys are just kind of filing right in and have been prepared all year. So there's a really good mood, good vibes, man, in the Westfield camp. And like I said, them being at home, that's gonna be a tough one for Fishers, but I wouldn't put it past the Tigers. Like you said, the conference is the conference, and these players. It's amazing how some of these schools probably have 3 varsity starting lineups just in their depth chart. So,
yeah, really.
Yeah, when they have injuries, it's unfortunate, but they're usually kids that are going to step up and fill that void. And I think Westfield's in good position. If they stay focused on defense and they played like they did in that first half, I think they're going to be a really tough team to beat.
I will say 15 years ago, a team that nobody thought would win state, Fishers, was early on in the school's history, won the 5A title and kind of came out of nowhere to do it. So
that was a great one. That was against Lawrence Central, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. They kind of handled handled Lawrence Central, and I think most people thought LC would win, and 2 years later they did win, but not on that night. Fishers handled them in that game, and in 2010. So yeah, I mean, maybe there's some magic in the air of anniversary type thing, but yeah, I was kind of as Fishers played throughout this year, I was thinking about that, like, that could be maybe this team's kind of that sleeper team to do it. But and that team beat Carmel in the sectional. I think it was a semifinal that year. That kind of set them on the course to win that title. But yeah, maybe there's something to it. Maybe there's not. Maybe Westfield will handle them. I don't know. I mean, I think Westfield's probably the team to beat right now in the North after this win tonight. What else can you say? I mean, Carmel's been so good all year. I mean, and to win that game tonight says a lot about Westfield's program. And because I covered that first game, Rich, and Carmel really did put it to them. And I think that probably is something that, also probably worked in Westfield's favor tonight was that earlier result. But yeah, very impressive.
Yeah, I agree. And then, yeah, I do remember that semifinal win for Fishers. I want to say that was a Halloween night game.
It might have been.
Yeah, the only reason I say that is because I remember the student section in costumes. It was fun to see, from the press box. But yeah, I mean, you know what? Fishers is a team that's really turned it on, and obviously the Mud Sock, they win both of them. So I mean, officially they get a pair of socks. So there you go, right? So that's big for them, and it's a big momentum boost and it's a big confidence boost, I'm sure. But in this conference and at this level now and at Westfield, it's a tall order. It's going to take a long week of preparation, I'm sure, a lot of mental focus, but who knows? It could be a 24-21 final, and I'm glad I'm not the one making the predictions. That's all I got.
Yeah, I take the heat for those. I fired up Cascade last week. They were mad at me. I said I picked you guys to win, but I guess I didn't pick them by enough. So I said,
you got to respect the margin. Yeah, you got to respect the margin of victory, Kyle. Come on, man.
That's right. Yeah. Well, all right, Rich, I'll let you get back to work, man. Appreciate you hopping on here. You had a great game tonight. And again, Westfield wins it, and Westfield moves on to play Fishers next week. The Shamrocks win 23-20 in overtime over Carmel. It's a great game. Look forward to reading the story, Rich. Thanks for popping on here.
Appreciate it.
All right, man. Well, Rich Torres had the Westfield Carmel game tonight, 23-20 again. Westfield wins it. Sorry. They move on to play Fishers in the next round in the regional. Going through the scores tonight, and hopefully you see those at the bottom there. Had updated them as I was talking to Rich. Some really interesting results tonight. It's a night where, like we talked about with Akeem and Rich, I think both those games maybe a little bit surprising in the outcome. I didn't pick those games correctly, but also I'm going to get into my game here in a minute. I had New Pal and Cathedral. New Pal 1-2. New Pal beats Cathedral 20-15. Definitely that game lived up to the billing, and I'll get to that in a minute, but wanted to run through some of the other scores from tonight as well, especially in our immediate area tonight. But going through from the top in Class 6A in the North, like we said, Westfield beats Carmel in Sectional 3, 23-20 in overtime. Fishers beats Hamilton Southeastern 28-20. That was in Sectional 4. Brownsburg 53-21 over Avon. That was a rematch of a game that Brownsburg won 55-47 earlier in the season. So didn't have as much trouble this time around. Got off to a pretty big lead early in that one and was able to put it on Avon. Decatur Central came back. They were behind 14-3 to Lawrence Central. Decatur Central comes back and wins 17-14 to win 6A Sectional 6. And, of course, Decatur, a 5A team last year, moving up, winning a 6A sectional title for the first time. In Sectional 7, Warren Central 58-0 over Southport. That was very predictable how that one would go. Southport got a win last week. They beat Tech, but definitely overmatched against Warren. Center Grove, Sectional 8, 30-27 over Franklin Central. And was just looking at some of the stats from that game. And a big game for Ricky Lang on the ground for Center Grove. But Franklin Central was right in this game into the end of the game, and it looked like Center Grove had the lead. It was 20-7 at halftime. 20-14 going into the fourth quarter. So Franklin Central was able to stay in it. They got a touchdown pass to Markel Bailey in the fourth quarter, and then an answer by Center Grove. Tilton scored on a touchdown, and then on a touchdown run, and then Hudson Moritz caught a touchdown pass to bring Franklin Central within a field goal. But that's where it ended up, 30-27. So Center Grove's long winning streak, I think it's now 16 sectional titles in a row. I have to check that for sure. But Ricky Lang had 121 yards on the ground and on 21 carries in that one. And, and like I mentioned, Moritz had a big game. He had 6 catches, 121 yards in that touchdown that I mentioned earlier. That happened in the fourth quarter there. So Franklin Central, again, they lose to Center Grove. Seems like every year sometimes they're close, other times not so much. This year, definitely close, but couldn't quite get it done. In sectional 14 and 5A, East Central beats Whiteland 35-0, and that was a lot of people tracking that game where I was at New Pal, because East Central will host New Pal. East Central wins at 35-0. That's surprising. I thought that would be kind of a toss-up 50-50 type game. Was definitely not. Another game of note, not in our area, but Fort Wayne Dwenger 32-0 beats East Noble. East Noble ranked number 1 in the state, the not defending champs, but runner-ups from a year ago. And they're out. So Dwenger moves on in 4A. They'll be a handful. Lebanon beats Logan Sports 11 21-17. Lebanon's first sectional title since 1997. So that's a big one for Lebanon to get through. They lost in overtime last year in the sectional title game. Yorktown beat Pendleton Heights 28-10. Pendleton Heights, I'm sure, very disappointed. It looked like they had the ball in the red zone or close to it several times early, couldn't get anything out of it, and then it kind of snowballed on them. So Yorktown wins 28-10, and they will play Roncalli, which Roncalli beat Chitaard, as we talked about earlier. And then sectional 23, Martinsville, kind of a surprise. They had lost to Bedford North Lawrence handily earlier in the year. They win tonight 49-35. So Martinsville moves on, and they will have their hands full because they'll have a Heritage Hills team that is very good. Heritage Hills beats Jasper tonight 38-8. So definitely a team that means business. They were the 3A champs last year. Obviously, a lot of talent back from that team again, including Jet Goldsberry on that team. So, and then the Class 3A locally, Cascade beats Guerin 49-21. So Cascade is sectional champ, first time since 1992. And they will play Lawrenceburg next week. Lawrenceburg beat Greensburg 41-3. Kind of expected that to be lopsided. Indian Creek, impressive win, sectional 31, 48-13 over Scottsburg. Again, thought that game would be maybe a toss-up type game. It definitely was not. And they will definitely have their hands full next week as well. They play Gibson Southern. And Gibson Southern, we talked last night to Kyle Soakland from the Evansville Courier and Press about that game. Mater Dei was only 6-5, but a really good team that had just played a tough schedule. And Gibson Southern able to get through them 17-14. So a tough game tonight. Heritage Christian almost pulled the upset, lost to Lutheran 28-24. Had a story on Eli Nix, the Heritage Christian quarterback, who had been playing great, and they almost pulled it off. Lutheran wins, and they will play LaPel. LaPel beats Triton Central 28-15 in sectional 38 championship. LaPel, I was kind of trying to track that game. They were up 21-0 and then hold on to win. And then Sheridan was the other local team in 1A. They win 14-7 over Cloverdale. And Sheridan will now play South Putnam, which beat Riverton Park in overtime 29-21. So Sheridan moves on in 1A, our only local team still going. So stay with me here. We on our regional round now. We have the matchup set. Fishers at Westfield in 6A, Brownsburg at Decatur in the south half of the bracket. Warren is at Center Grove. Seems like we see that game every year in the regional round. So, but the other one's a couple of kind of new games, although Fishers and Westfield play every year. That's a little bit different of a game than we've seen in the regional. And Brownsburg Decatur, definitely a different type of game. So we'll see how the Hawks can do against the defending champs of Brownsburg. And then in 5A, we'll have New Pal at East Central. And if you remember, East Central hammered New Pal 2 years ago I think that game was 49-0. I know New Pal got shut out in that game, so I'm sure it'll be a talking point for Kyle Ralph after practice this week for sure. Also, Lebanon will host Fort Wayne Dwenger. They'll have their hands full there. Dwenger is very good, especially on the defensive side. Roncalli will be at Yorktown in 4A. Martinsville will be at Heritage Hills in 4A as well. In 3A, Cascade gets a home game. They play Lawrenceburg. That'll be an awesome crowd. Cascade really behind its team right now for sure. Indian Creek will go to Gibson Southern. That'll be a long bus ride and a tough opponent. In 2A, we'll have Lapel at Lutheran. That should be a really good game. And then Sheridan and South Putnam in 1A. So that's kind of the setup for next week's games in the regional. And also wanted to get into my game a little bit too. New Pal wins 20-15 over Cathedral. Phenomenal atmosphere, just a great game too. But yeah, the atmosphere, you walk in there and it's like there's just people everywhere, all around. The parking lot's full. People still coming into the game as even as kickoff starts, and just a fantastic atmosphere for high school football. And the game definitely lived up to it. It was more of a defensive struggle probably than I even anticipated, especially early in the game. New Pal got a kickoff return right off the bat, and that kind of set the tone, man. It was like it was just immediate that New Pal scores, takes a 7-0 lead on a 97-yard kickoff return for a score. So that was that kind of put Cathedral on its heels a bit. That was Ryder Gardner took it back to the house, and he made an even bigger play later. But Cathedral did answer early in the second quarter. The teams kind of traded punts back and forth. Cathedral got a safety early in the second quarter, and then the biggest play to me of the game was on the ensuing kickoff return. Jimmy Pappas looked like he was about to break it. Gets down to the 4 or 5 yard line. And Ryder Gardner, who had returned that kickoff earlier, was able to just trip him up. Pappas falls to the ground and doesn't get in the end zone. You're still thinking, well, Cathedral's in good shape. They're at the 4. Well, they don't. The first 2 plays of that drive, they don't go anywhere. On third down, Cameron Kors rolls to his right and throws it into the end zone. Andrew Davis intercepts it for New Pal. So Cathedral got nothing out of that whole deal. And that really seemed to kind of flip everything a little bit. But Cathedral did, they stayed in it. Van Krisseloff, who had an awesome game, one of the best kickers you'll ever see at the high school level. He had a 36-yard field goal. His punts were also outstanding. He was a big reason why Cathedral was in this game. I'll look up his while I'm talking here, try to look up his punting stats for the night too. He had 5 punts for 46.4, and all 5 punts were inside the 20. I would say he had 1 went to the 4. I mean, a lot of them were inside the 10. So, he was a big deal for Cathedral tonight for sure. When you got a kicker like that, and I thought that might come into play, but Cathedral couldn't quite keep it within that field goal range at the end of the game. But so moving forward, New Pal scored in about midway through the third quarter. The first drive of the second half for New Pal was big, in my opinion. They had a couple long passes that I think they saw something that was going to work for them, and Garrett Rains was able to get loose for a couple long catches. He had a 41-yarder and then a 38-yarder to set up a short touchdown run by Jacob Davis, the New Pal quarterback. So they took a 14-5 lead midway through the third quarter. Cathedral came back. Krisloff hit a 42-yard field goal. Again, another drive that was hurt by penalties. I feel like Cathedral really just kind of shot themselves in the foot a few times on penalties that were just terrible timing. There was a unsportsmanlike penalty that was a good call, but just not a smart play that ends up hurting them at a different point in the game. But just some things that untimely penalties for sure. They had eight penalties for 82 yards, but it felt like all of those 8 were costly. So they still in the game, and then Jacob Davis. New Pal had another drive early in the fourth quarter. Or it ended early in the fourth quarter. It was a 10-play, 66 yards. Davis scores on a 2-yard run. New Pal went for 2, didn't get it, so it was 20-8 early in the fourth. Cathedral then they aren't able to move the ball, but then they stop. New Pile get the ball back, and they score on a fourth down. It was 4th and 1 from the 7. Coors made a really nice play to Nate Van Veers for a 7-yard touchdown pass, and Nate made a nice catch on that too. Gets into the end zone. That capped a 10-play, 69-yard drive that was very impressive. They kind of marched down the field, able to score there, take the pull within 5. It's 20-15 at that point, and then they're able to stop New Pal, so they get the ball back, use all their timeouts. There they try the onside, then use all 3 of their timeouts on the New Pal drive. They don't go anywhere on 3 plays, and then the ball goes back to Cathedral at the 20 with not much time left. There's over a minute something and change left, but not really able to go anywhere the first 2 plays, and then another pick by Andrew Davis, his 3rd of the game, salts it away. So again, great win for New Pal, and I know a lot of talk about this was about how it was a state championship game. We'll find out. I mean, you still have to go down to East Central and beat a really good team. East Central can use all that bulletin board motivation, I'm sure, that they hear about this being the state championship game, but a really good win, obviously, for New Pal, and a really good team that they just beat. Yeah, that Cathedral team, I think on any given night could beat anybody, including a lot of 6A teams, because they had done that throughout the course of the season. So, but yeah, it was really fantastic. Again, atmosphere was great. The play on the field was great. It was such a good high school football game, and a hard hitting defensive game too. So that was how that one went out at New Pal tonight, and we'll see what happens. I mean, again, a lot of people can say, us writers and things like that can kind of talk about how that was a state championship game. And I asked Kyle Ralph, did that feel like a state championship? He said it was a sectional championship. So and that's kind of what you'd expect from what he would say in that moment. Bill Peoples, on the other hand, kind of said, I don't expect anybody to beat them. And he kind of felt like it was a state championship type of game. So kind of some different viewpoints on that. But yeah, it was I really thought that, from Cathedral side of things, they did about everything you could do defensively. You end up in this game with, New Pal had not really been stopped all season on offense, and they only had 214 yards of offense tonight. So that's about as good as you can play that type of a team that, especially in the run game, they had 66 rushing yards, which is just hard to believe on 38 attempts. So under 2 yards per carry. Cathedral didn't run it very well either. They only had 71 yards rushing. So 2 teams that really kind of pride themselves on running and also pride themselves on defense. So understandable. But yeah, this game was definitely won on the defensive side by New Pal, and some timely offensive plays. Like I said, those plays, that first drive of the second half from Davis to Raines, those were a couple of huge passes that kind of felt like they could breathe a little bit easier at that point, and then kind of play from ahead, which I think is what New Pal wanted to do. But again, I thought the couple of plays there by Ryder Gardner, the kickoff return for a touchdown, the hustle play to trip up Pappas there at the end of that kickoff return, and I credit Pappas for getting through that hole. That was a nice return, 68-yard return down to the 4. And looked like Cathedral was about to take the lead, but then they're unable to. So big time hustle play. Never give up on a kickoff. Guys running, looks like he's going to score a touchdown. It's kind of a Don Beebe, if you're old enough to remember the Bills, Don Beebe from the Cowboys Bills Super Bowl back in the day. It wasn't that dramatic, but good hustle play nonetheless by Ryder Gardner on that one. So. But yeah, great stuff. Great games tonight. A lot of surprises. A lot of games I think that maybe we thought some of these would go the way they ended up going, but definitely some surprises tonight, and just a fun season of football. Great weather again tonight. I mean, can't complain at all about that. New Pal had a nice bonfire going outside the stadium there. It was reminiscent of last time I remember covering Cathedral there in 2019, and New Pal ended up pulling away and winning that game a little bit easier than tonight, but very reminiscent of that atmosphere as well. But I'm joining on long enough here. Thanks for joining me, and read all of our stuff, IndyStar.com. We'll have plenty more coverage, including my game, the New Pal Cathedral game, and Rich and Akeem's games, and a lot more to come throughout the weekend. So again, thanks for being here and joining me, and we'll talk to you next time.